So, Project Artemis beginning soon, or at least the first mission beginning soon, and with the potential for lunar development uh, starting to percolate. That I wanted to talk about where the future is in space exploration, and specifically focusing on the moon because everything that can be done on Mars, which is the societal next step for big jumps in terms of human exploration, can be that everything that can be discovered there in the next, I think, 100 years can be discovered on the moon with a lot less effort, a lot less resources, a lot less danger for our the astronomer, for astronauts and others, uh, and really there's a lot of things we can learn, a lot of boon for landing on the moon in in and working and to develop a city on the moon, Lunopolis. Uh, so let's taking a look at that, taking a look at where we can find a safe place to develop, what resources we can develop on the moon or on any extraterrestrial body. We we've discovered, as with Artemis, the or which is the focus of the Artemis missions, that there's ice in the polar regions of the moon, and we're going to be looking at developing how we can find these resources, how much resources there are in terms of ice, and where how they're distributed, so that we can use them, because ice is a big resource for the outer space. But there is a there is another resource which is not been looked into enough, which is safety, which is the protection from micrometeorites and meteorites in the in outer space. From on the moon, there is a lot of dust, and protection from that dust, protection from the high temperature variance. It goes from extreme hot to extreme cold, and we've one of the things that I was reading about recently is that dust and rocks that in the daytime gets warmed up so much that they become polarized, and then the nighttime comes and they change polarization, and then again when the daytime comes up, they become uh, because they've become polarized during the night in the opposite direction. They become polarized in the daytime, they it just pushes them up off of the surface of the moon, and you get what looks like the morning fragmentation of light you get with the rising of the sun. You get a so where the light bounces through what looks like almost an atmosphere, right? It's just the debris and the rocks being thrown up, and the very slight atmosphere that the moon has, but it's being thrown up, and it presents this fragmentation of light, as if it was the with as if it was an atmosphere in full, with the rising of the sun over the moon, on the moon surface. So you have this, and that's so you have this rock, all this dust and rocks being thrown around on the surface every day, and finding places that are protected from all this is difficult, or at least is constructing it on the moon would be difficult, right, in mass, which is why the lunar lava tubes and caverns on the moon represent a first place where we can begin to uh, safely, or much more easily, construct safe living conditions on the moon, where we can study the surface of the moon, as well as these in-depth lava tubes, which may hold, not just mineral veins of whatever has been, whatever's nearby that the lava hollowed out the tube and just left, a clear, you know, uh, avenue to the vein of many other resources of iron, of nickel, of whatever's on the moon, whatever's uh, yeah in the moon. It also may, you never know, may have an asteroid may have punched through and left part of the ice beneath the surface in that lava tube, but it represents a lot of potential resources in terms of what you can find, as well as protection from all the elements that are constantly bombarding the moon and surrounding the moon, and so you get a real potential to for development of the of space of humanity's um, presence in the in our solar system, right? This exists on Mars as well, right? There are caverns and lava tubes on Mars, but it's not as close. It's there's and we ha- there's a potential real benefit for being that close to where we are in terms of communication. It's much more quickly you can communicate with with rovers there or with people there, and so there's a real benefit for setting up first on the moon, exploring these caverns, and getting a basis for how we would begin to develop, establish uh, a human presence, as well as to begin to explore what resources are there, and how and through modifying our rovers, through experimenting with what works in terms of uh, building rovers and having their interaction with people, you can really get an idea of how we would explore Mars, how we would explore other extraterrestrial bodies by first doing it on the moon in a much closer and safer environment. Not to say that it's even devoid of dangers, right? There's a lot of dangers just on going to the moon. It's not the easiest. It's not the easiest thing. It's still a challenge to our generation, as it was indeed to our parents' generation. So the challenge is still there. They just not just landing there, right? But really building and surveying and finding the resources and finding a way to make it into a livable place is a challenge, and it's something that is the correct challenge for this generation, for the next generation as well. Um, More so than just going to Mars and then coming back. There may be definitely resources and science that's discovered from doing that endeavor, and it should be done as soon as possible. But there's a real quantifiable benefit for building out and discovering the resources on the moon in terms of and building a human presence there uh, that is not, I think, taken at its face value, or at a real is not that our society currently doesn't have a real sense of its value. So definitely wanted to discuss that and to bring it up and to perhaps begin to push this idea of building Lunopolis, exploring, landing rovers inside these tunnels, uh, lunar lava tubes, and beginning to explore them, beginning to explore what resources they have, figuring out how we communicate them, how we set up, and develop communications, and then ultimately when with Artemis landing people on the moon and beginning to figure out how we have a system where you can land these rovers and discover what's there, as well as to build a human presence to go and investigate what the rovers find, to repair them if they've come into trouble, and to interact with the respective governments of many nations that would probably be landing rovers there first, as opposed to just landing people there. I mean, there might be more than the U.S. There might be China. There might be Russia that again puts people on the moon, but there's going to be an interaction between those nations and as well as other nations that are going to land rovers on the moon in the future. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So I'll leave it there, and hope everyone is having a wonderful day.